welcome back. I'm so delighted to have you with me for yet another version of Q&A Saturday. Our question today comes from DSA and she writes, Dear Alison, hello. My friend Victoria, who met you in Cape Town, told me about your blog, so I reached to the computer to find out because I love comics and I love drawing them. I can't draw a bus or cars. It's kind of hard because I'm a beginner, and it's hard for me to draw expressions too. These are frustrations that I have. DSA, these are such common frustrations. I have to tell you that lots of people really struggle drawing exactly the same things as you mentioned, so you're not alone by any means. I'm going to tackle them one at a time so that the video doesn't get too long to be practical. And by the way, I told Tori that you wrote to me, and she says that you are actually quite the cartoonist, so I bet you have more skills than you give yourself credit for. So we're going to draw the bus in two ways. Firstly, we're going to look at this side-on bus, and then we're going to look at what's actually a bit trickier to draw, which is a bus at an angle like this. But the first thing you need to do, as you can see I have done, is arm yourself with a reference. Using a reference is so important, especially when you're starting out, because when you have a reference, you can actually trace, and when you trace, you're able to work out proportions and see how things work in a way that you can't easily do when you're trying to work from your imagination. So as you can see, this big old bus is really a rectangle. And then we start to see how things fit into the rectangle and some places that we can cut shapes out. So there's another rectangle for the bumper, and then we've got this big circle here for the wheel. Notice I'm tracing very roughly. Then we have another circle here for the wheel arch, which obscures part of the tire. And then we have two circles in here for the hubcap. Don't worry if it's rough, that's what we're looking for. Now we need to measure with our eye a little bit in from here, and here we go. Another big circle for the tire, a circle for the wheel arch where it obscures the tire, and two circles here to show our hubcap. From there, I'm going to go and say, right, I'm going to cut out what's approximately a square here. And now I'm going to draw in this rectangle for the bus's windscreen. Now let's look at the bus door, which is really just another rectangle. So here we go, rectangle. And it's easy to see there's a little gap between the rectangle for the windscreen and the rectangle for the door. A tall skinny rectangle in the top left-hand corner, a tall skinny rectangle in the top right-hand corner, and then we have a square taking up the bottom. Now I'm going to draw in this line here because it's going to help me to keep the windows in the right place. And I'm going to draw 4 squares above the line. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very roughly, as you can see. And dividing them in half, there you have your bus windows. Put this line in here, a little bit of writing is going to go in between, and then we can come along and we can fill in this light on front, and this little indicator light, and if we want to we can put the mirror on here, and rub out the corner. There we have our bus. But of course, the most important thing that we need to consider is, now, are we able to reproduce the bus ourselves? Because after all, we don't want to spend our lives tracing. So the most important thing to do is say, start exactly where we started with the big rectangle. And you want to get it the right height. So I often count to make sure I get something right. So look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, let me do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's approximately going to be the right thing. Now I'm going to do a big rough rectangle as we had before. Very rough. Remember, we're just trying to get the proportions and to get to grips with the bus. Let's put in this rectangle here for our bumper at the back. And then we can go and do our first big circle because we've got the wheel. Then we need a smaller circle for the wheel arch. And then we need 2 circles for the hubcap. Here again we measure a little with our eye and we say big circle. And smaller circle. Rather squashed. 2 small circles for the hubcaps. Now I'm going to cut out that square as I had before, very rough, and I'm going to put in this rectangle for the window. And now comes the turn for the door. Let's do the door like this. Do you see how easy it is to copy something once you've traced it and figured out the shapes? There's our final square for the door. We're going to go and put in this line, because it helps us to keep our windows in line. And we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And yes, it's very rough, very, very rough. Put in this line, squiggle of writing in between. I can put in this, and the indicator light, and the mirror. And rub out this bit, and there we have our bus. Now we're going to look at drawing the bus from an angle, and this is a little bit trickier because perspective comes into it. But we don't want to frighten ourselves, so let's just think of this as instead of being a rectangle, we're going to draw a box and cut some pieces out of it. Once again, we're going to start with tracing, and let's imagine our box goes like this. There we go. So there is our box. We've got wheels and wheel arches again. So there are our wheels, wheel arch coming in. And we need to also remember that we've got this line because our box doesn't go all the way to the ground with the bus. So there we have our box, and we have the door of the bus, which we kind of recognize from the last time round. It's got slightly different door panels, but maybe we'll save ourselves some time and just put in the rectangles like this. I'm using quite a thick pen so that you can see it, and working very roughly, so you'll do a better job by yourselves. Then we put in this rectangle like this, and here we go, some detail on the front of the bus. And the windows. So windows are important all the way to the back of the bus. And then we put these lines going down, these vertical lines. You can see how they get closer together. That's just a function of the perspective. But don't worry too much about perspective. Just draw it like that. So then, once again, we come to the thing of can we draw it ourselves? So let's imagine this. Starting always with the front corner of the bus closest to you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a half probably. So let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a half. Then I'm going to go like this. It goes at a slight angle, kind of upwards. This one, because of the perspective, goes at a slight angle, kind of downwards. Now, what do I do? And that's vertical. And we've got this, and it's kind of going a little bit downwards and out. Here, and we'll take it across like this. So we've got a wheel at the back here, and a wheel at the front, which looks bigger than the one at the back. We've got the windscreen like this. We've got these bits in here. We've got one big headlight here and one which looks smaller there. We've got these. And we've got this. We need the door, which seems incredibly narrow and tricky to do. Fill in the door panels. And finally the windows. Following the line down. Oh goodness, I'm making a terrible mess. And like that, like that, like that. And there we have our bus. The essay, that was my answer to your bus drawing question. Thank you so much for asking it. Next week I'll get on to drawing cars, and the week after that we'll rustle up some fantastic expressions together, so I hope you'll be able to join me. Did you like this video? If you did, subscribe to my YouTube channel and be sure to share it with all your friends. I would love to hear from them too, so if anyone has got questions they want to ask or they have a drawing they want to submit, head on over to my website www.alisonbeer.com and sign up for email updates, and you'll be able to mail me too. Keep drawing, keep creating, and above all, stay light-hearted, because if we have light-heartedness and compassion, I truly believe we change the way we see our world. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on Q&A Saturday.